A low, thunderous growl from Leonardo DiCaprio's motorcycle shattered the silence of the deserted parking lot. He cut the engine and remained perched for a heartbeat. Something had caught his eye. There, an elderly man, his face drawn with fatigue, struggled to push a line of shopping carts that seemed almost too heavy for him. DiCaprio watched quietly, then made a choice. What happens next won't just change that man's life, it will touch yours too. But before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, subscribe now, because tomorrow we have another special journey waiting for you. Morning's soft glow filtered through threadbare curtains in Earl's humble home. He sat up slowly, every joint stiff and aching, yet he forced himself upright. Margaret, his wife, still lay curled in the bed beside him, unaware of the burdens he carried. The tiny kitchen, though plainly furnished, exuded a gentle warmth. Sepia-toned photographs of a wedding long ago, a sunlit beach holiday from the 1970s, a crowded Christmas gathering, all reminders of brighter days. Earl lingered before the photos, tightening his wedding band as he recalled those moments. After brewing a simple cup of coffee, he crossed the narrow hallway to Margaret's room. She sat at the edge of the bed, eyes unfocused, Alzheimer's having taken so much. But in her gaze, Earl still glimpsed the woman he'd married. He knelt beside her and gently clasped her hand. "Good morning, my love," he whispered. Margaret didn't answer, but a faint smile curved her lips, and for Earl, that was blessing enough. Carefully, he guided her to the bathroom, then to the table where she settled. Earl turned back to the counter, sorting her medications like a soldier arranging his ammunition. Each pill a stark reminder of the battles they fought every single day. "Today will be a good day," he murmured to himself, as if summoning hope by sheer force of will. Reality waited on the cluttered coffee table, bills piled high, red overdue stamps glaring up at him. Earl sighed, scanned the numbers with weary eyes, and thought aloud, "Maybe I can pick up extra hours at the market." He returned to Margaret's room. She clutched their wedding photograph, as she often did. He smoothed her silver hair and said, "I'll be back soon. Stay strong for me." Though she barely nodded, in her eyes he saw a spark of recognition that steeled his resolve. Outside, dawn had brightened the sky into pale blues and pinks. Earl inhaled deeply, bracing himself. "Grant me strength for one more day," he prayed quietly, and stepped into his aging sedan. His knees groaned as he climbed in, but he drove off, unaware that today's routine would lead to something extraordinary. The market's parking lot buzzed with activity when Earl arrived. He grabbed his faded vest from the back seat, its frayed edges bearing witness to years of service, and joined the half-scattered line of carts. The morning air was cool, but Earl knew it would soon bake the asphalt under a blistering sun, making this chore even more punishing. He set to work with methodical care, lining up carts into neat rows. Every push sent a jolt of pain through his knee, yet he pressed on. Each minute wasted meant more grumbling from the manager and less time to care for Margaret. A harried shopper nearly barreled into him, muttering, "Sorry, sir," before disappearing through the store doors. Earl offered a weary smile. The reminder of his own age stung, but he kept moving. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the clatter of metal wheels. "Earl, why are these carts still everywhere?" The manager, a man in his 30s with impatience etched into his features, strode up. Earl straightened, ignoring the ache in his leg. "Almost done, boss. Just need a few more minutes." "A few more minutes isn't good enough," the manager snapped. "If you were on top of it, we wouldn't need extra help." Earl pressed his lips together, refusing to argue. He threw all his strength into the next row, the carts screeching as they aligned. One wagon slipped free, nearly striking a parked car. Earl lunged and caught it just in time, pain shooting through his knee. He leaned on the cart, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Just one more day." Unseen, across the lot, a man on a motorcycle watched. He removed his helmet, his dark jacket catching the sun, and studied Earl's struggle. DiCaprio remained motionless for a moment, empathy softening his gaze. He knew he had to step in, but how? Leonardo DiCaprio stepped forward, his stride calm but purposeful. He closed the gap until he stood beside Earl's weary frame, his eyes taking in every detail, the deep creases in Earl's face, the trembling fingers wrapped around the cart's handle, the pain etched into each movement. Clearing his throat softly, DiCaprio said, "Need a hand with that?" Startled, Earl straightened and offered a polite, tired smile. "No, sir. I've got it under control." DiCaprio returned the smile with gentle insistence. "I really insist. Let me help." He bent at the waist and slipped his hands beneath the metal cart. "Just lean into it," he coached, matching his pace to Earl's. Together, they guided the wheels into neat alignment, the harsh grind of metal on concrete giving way to smooth motion. As they moved on to the next row, DiCaprio asked in a warm tone, "How long have you been doing this job?" Earl paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "About 5 years," he replied. "After Margaret got sick, her care costs drained our savings. I took this work to keep the bills paid." DiCaprio nodded thoughtfully. "That's a heavy burden." Earl shrugged. "It's what needs to be done. She's my wife." They fell into a rhythm, pushing cart after cart. The sun climbed higher, baking the asphalt under a blistering glare, yet Earl persisted. Every few pushes he paused to rub his knee, wincing through the pain. After aligning several more carts, DiCaprio suggested, "Let's take a quick break. There's a cafe inside, my treat. You could use a cold drink." Earl hesitated, pride flickering in his eyes, but fatigue won out. "All right," he said softly. Inside the market's cafe, DiCaprio ordered 2 iced coffees. They sat on a worn wooden bench by the window, cups sweating in their hands. DiCaprio handed Earl his drink. "Here you go." Earl took a long sip and exhaled. "Thank you. Few people even notice us." DiCaprio leaned back to watch the parking lot. "Why here, Earl? Why not something easier?" Earl paused before answering. "Nothing else would cover Margaret's meds. At my age, and with my health, it's all I can find." DiCaprio met his gaze. "You've sacrificed everything for her. That's true love." Earl's lips curved into a small, grateful smile. "I just do what must be done." They watched passersby in respectful silence. DiCaprio studied Earl's scarred hands. "Your story moved me," he said after a moment. "I wish more would understand sacrifice like yours." Earl looked surprised. "Aren't you someone famous?" DiCaprio chuckled softly. "Just a guy with coffee today." Earl laughed, the sound lightening his expression. After a while, DiCaprio set down his cup. "I should get you back out there. Those carts won't organize themselves." Earl stood, stretching tired muscles. "Thanks for the coffee. And the chat." DiCaprio rose too. "My pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow, Earl." Earl blinked in surprise. "You will?" DiCaprio gave a playful nod. "Count on it." He slipped on his helmet, mounted his bike, and peeled out of the lot, dust trailing in his wake. Earl exhaled, a strange warmth in his chest. As he returned to the carts, the burden on his shoulders felt a little lighter. Tomorrow, he realized, might be different. The very next morning, Leonardo DiCaprio rolled into the market parking lot before sunrise. The rows of carts lay still in the dim glow of the lot lights, and Earl was already at his post, pushing the first line into place. DiCaprio dismounted, clipped his helmet to the bike, and watched Earl work for a moment, each push deliberate, each pause marked by a wince. He walked straight toward the manager's office at the far end of the lot. Inside, the young supervisor looked up, surprised to see him so early. "Morning," DiCaprio said, folding his arms. "I'd like to discuss Earl." The manager's brow furrowed with curiosity. DiCaprio placed an envelope on the desk. "I want to cover Earl's salary for the next 3 months," he announced. "Also, I'd like to arrange full payment for his wife's medications." The manager blinked, then leaned closer to examine the check inside. "You're sure?" he asked, voice low. "I am." DiCaprio met his gaze steadily. "But Earl's pride runs deep. It must be anonymous. Tell him it's a special bonus from the market." After a long pause, the manager nodded. "Understood. I'll handle it." Next, DiCaprio asked for a list of pharmacies where Margaret's prescriptions were filled. A quick call sorted out the details, and by mid-morning, payments were set up for the coming months. Satisfied, DiCaprio slipped out, stopping by a small cafe near the market entrance. He bought 2 hot coffees and tucked them into a cardboard carrier. Back at the parking lot, Earl was finishing his shift, his vest damp with sweat. DiCaprio approached with the drinks. "Coffee?" he offered. Earl looked up, puzzled, then accepted gratefully. They sat on the same bench from 2 days before, the market's activity humming around them. "You look better today," DiCaprio said quietly. Earl took a long sip. "I slept well." He paused, studying his companion. "You didn't have to do all that." DiCaprio shook his head. "You didn't ask. It was the least I could do." He tapped the coffee cup. "Work hard, but don't break yourself." Earl managed a small smile. When the shift ended, the manager intercepted Earl and handed him a plain white envelope. "This is for you," he said, voice gentle. Earl's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a letter stating that his next 3 paychecks had already been deposited, plus confirmation that Margaret's medication costs were covered for months ahead. No signature, just the words, "Take care of her. You are not alone." Earl looked up at the manager, eyes glossy. I don't know what to say." The manager cleared his throat, offering a supportive nod before turning away. That evening, Earl unlocked the door to his modest home and stepped inside. Margaret sat in her favorite armchair, clutching their wedding photo. Tears welled in Earl's eyes as he approached. He knelt before her and held out the letter. "We have a chance now," he whispered, her eyes, usually distant, fixed on his face. For a moment, the fog lifted, a spark of recognition, as though she saw him clearly for the first time in years. "Earl," she breathed. He lifted her hands. "It's me," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Everything's going to be okay." Margaret blinked, smile gentle but real. "I remember." Earl guided her to stand, and in the soft lamplight, they danced slowly in the living room, humming the tune from their wedding day. For a precious span of minutes, Alzheimer's receded, and they were young again. 2 hearts in perfect harmony. Outside, Leonardo DiCaprio rode away into the gathering dusk, the engine's hum a quiet benediction. He didn't need Earl's thanks. He knew the greatest reward was watching hope bloom where it had been nearly lost. In the days that followed, moments of clarity returned to Margaret, flickers of the woman she had been. Earl resumed his routine, but now with renewed strength. Each time he passed a line of carts, he remembered the unseen hand that had lifted his burden, and he carried that kindness forward in every kind word and gentle smile. As the sun slid below the horizon, the sky blazed in hues of rose and amber. Earl and Margaret sat quietly on their little wooden porch, its planks worn smooth by decades of use. He clasped her frail hand in his own, feeling the warmth still lingering in her palm, and gazed out across the field where fireflies danced in the gathering dusk. The world was hushed, except for the gentle creak of the rocking chair and the distant call of a night bird. Earl raised his eyes to the heavens and, in a soft voice, whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." His words drifted on the evening breeze. "You saved more than our lives. You gave us hope." Margaret turned her head, eyes cloudy yet gentle, and offered the faintest smile he had seen in years. For that brief moment, Alzheimer's had relented, and the woman he loved was clear in his arms again. In the days that followed, those sparks of clarity flickered like candlelight in the dark. Sometimes Margaret would pause mid-sentence, her gaze sharpening as if recollecting a long-lost memory. Other days, she slipped back into silence, but Earl carried that miracle with him. Each morning, he rose determined, fortified by the knowledge that love and kindness, even from a stranger, could shine through the heaviest shadows. He returned to his routine at the market with renewed purpose. When he aligned rows of carts, he imagined he could feel the unseen hand guiding him, whispering strength into his bones. Every push became a prayer for Margaret's well-being, every weary breath a testament to their bond. And though his body ached, his spirit held fast, buoyed by gratitude. Meanwhile, far from that quiet home, Leonardo DiCaprio rode down a deserted country road. The motorcycle's engine hummed beneath him, a steady heartbeat accompanying the swift wind. In the gathering dark, he removed his helmet and shook out his hair, breathing in the cool night air. He did not look back. He knew in his heart that he had done the right thing. Sometimes, he thought, the smallest gestures leave the deepest marks. A mile or two ahead, the road twisted through shadowed pines, moonlight glinting on wet asphalt. DiCaprio pressed forward, each turn reminding him that true kindness seeks no recognition. He carried with him the image of Earl and Margaret on that porch, their clasped hands, the tender sparkle in her eyes, the look of wonder on his face. that vision would stay with him long after the engine's roar faded. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore tales of hope, compassion, and resilience. And remember, even the quietest acts can change a life forever.